The Hanged Man. The Hanged Man. As above, so below. The Hanged Man in Tarot. You'll notice that he has like a halo of light about his head. And in most depictions, he is smiling. He is in ecstasy as he hangs from one foot. He is seeking enlightenment, the Hanged Man. I've had to experience being the Hanged Man in my life. Neville Goddard, one of the mystics of the early 1900s, talked about the Bible parable of the one who sold all they had to purchase the pearl of great price. And that pearl represents the pearls of wisdom. You've heard that saying. And the pearls of wisdom, that one pearl of great price. What is the price? You have to hang yourself. You must crucify yourself. You must give up all of your previous beliefs, thoughts, ideologies, theologies, and philosophies to find the truth, the one truth. Why you are here in this world. What this world is about. When you give it all up, for me, it was over 35 years of Christianity, of theology, of Christian-based philosophies and ideologies, doctrines and dogmas, one shape, form, or fashion from another. I would start it as a Southern Baptist boy at 13 years old on my own. My parents weren't interested in going to church, but they allowed me, and a church bus would come pick me up. Later, I went to a holiness church in the hills of Tennessee, and the holiness pastor there was like an uncle to me. He was a good old hillbilly man. He's very superstitious, very Pharisee-like, but he also had a lot of love. He wasn't a judgmental, hateful Pharisee, but he genuinely thought you had to have the right doctrines. You had to do the right things in life and things that you could and couldn't do. So I was I ended up being his assistant in the church, and he had a radio broadcast before there was podcasts. And I did that for a while, and I studied under him. But as early as 13 years old, I was studying the Bible, trying to find out why I was here. Oh, it must be this Bible God. Oh, what does he want me to do? What does he want me to think? What does he want me to believe and say and not do and not think? I was looking for an external God. Then years later, as I progressed, I got into what's called identity Christianity, or Christian identity, began to believe in the identity doctrine, which is a racial Christianity. It's a racist Christianity, believing that the Adamic race, or the race from Adam and Eve, is only the white race, and that, and including from Adam's 3 sons, and that the Israelite people in the Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, were a branch of that white race. And that's what I believed for years. And I was an activist in the general white power movement. Some people call it white nationalist. I never considered myself a white nationalist. I was always a Christian anarchist, for that matter. I was non-statist. I didn't believe in government. But I was trying to serve my God. And I was very zealous for my God, as it says in Numbers 25. I wanted to serve God. I wanted to do the right things and believe the right things and say the right things and be in the right groups, for that matter. And then I began to understand, as I began to seek in my life more spirituality, and I wanted more of God. I believed that this God was real, and I had seen miracles. I had seen people and known of miracles where people prayed for things, whether for a better job, to get out of addiction. They prayed for other people, healings in their body, all sorts of things. And I knew that there was these psi events, as they talk about in science, PSI, psi, these supernatural seeming events. And I wanted more in my life too, and I wanted more of God. I craved more of God, and Neville Goddard talked about this insatiable hunger for God. And I'll touch on that in just a moment. but I had this craving for the truth. I wanted to know the truth and just believe and do and live the truth the best of my ability. I never claimed to be a great Christian. I always failed. I would fall, and but I'd always try to pick myself back up. I would fall into this quote sin, or I would quote backslide. But I always considered myself a Christian and was trying to do the right thing. So, in my life, as I was approaching 50 years old, I'd fast and I'd pray off and on, and I would seek God and try to understand Him and what His will was for my life and what the truth was. All the while, I was tied up in all sorts of silly doctrines, including the racial Christian identity doctrine. And I became quite a well-known speaker, teacher, and activist in that world. A writer. I even had a newsletter, a monthly newsletter for 4 years. And all of these things that I did, I had regular Bible studies, but I was also involved in other things in the so-called white power movement. But it was all originally, like I told people, my racism was based off my religion. It was religiously or theologically based. It wasn't politically based. I seen everything as good versus evil, the devil versus man, Adam man, the white man, or the Israelite man, or the Israelite race, the white race. That was the silliness I believed. Because I knew the Bible had a racial connotation. If you read it literally, everyone, even atheists, believe the Bible has a racial connotation because they can see, reading the book, that it's pointing about a specific race of people. Even in the last book of the Bible, in the last book in the New Testament, in the book of Revelation, it talks about that. It talks about the bloodline of Israel and the 12 tribes of Israel and all that gobbledygook. And I read all of that literally, just like I read that, there was a 7-day Sabbath you had to keep. I kept that literally. All of these things I thought were literal. But at the same time in my life, I noticed that I personally was not spiritually growing. I didn't feel like I was really growing. I tried to live by faith. The Bible says the just shall live by faith. The Bible says as many as are spiritually, are led by the Spirit, they are the sons of God. And I was trying to learn to live by the Spirit. And I would notice I would get things. I would get knowings. I'd get prophetic prophecies that would come to pass, prophetic dreams or knowings. And people would have visions and dreams about me that would come to pass. They were good ones. But and plus I had seen prophecies come to pass. I've seen that stuff. I know that stuff is real. But I didn't understand all of that. I thought it was the voice of God, the voice of the Holy Spirit. Other times you think, negative thoughts and fearful thoughts, you think that's the voice of the devil. Other times you think it's your, quote, carnal mind, which is the theological term for your earthly mind, right? Your earthly consciousness. Well, I reached rock bottom. More than once did I reach rock bottom, and I would try to crawl back out in my life and become very depressed and stressed. And I would pray and fast and say, God, what's going on? And nothing seems to work out, and I want to be a good servant, and I want to have a good life too. The Bible promises you seek first the kingdom of heaven and all these other earthly things will happen for you. And everything was falling apart for me constantly. And so I would get somewhere and it would fall apart, get somewhere and fall apart. I would think things are getting better and they'd fall apart. Think things are getting better. It may be a few days or a few years, depending on the situation, what it was, and it would just fall apart. And I'm like, what's going on? So that led me to, and this is going to help me go into where I want to go with this video. That led me to understanding that there is no God to worship. There is no devil or Satan to worry about. There's no angels, there's no demons, there's no spirits, there's no dead relatives, souls, nothing like that. If you believe in those sorts of things, you can experience those sorts of things. There's no aliens, none of that stuff. If you believe in that sorts of thing, people are going to experience those things. But there's not one objective truth. Because this reality, as I began to learn, is not really reality. The experience here is absolutely real. Well, what's the experience? It's a mental thing. It's a mental concept. All the sex you have, all the good food you eat, all the fun you have in life with your family or your whatever it is, your sports, your hobbies, at work, whatever it is you like to do. When it's done, the physical part, what's left? A memory. It's all in pleasure is in the mind. And this whole wide world is mind. It is subjective. And I found that the only objective truth is mind. As this book here, I joke and I say this is my new Bible because it says in this book, the Kabbalion, it says at the beginning of it that it will come to you and you will understand it when it is your time. And there are people, I've even bought copies out of zealotry, bought copies for people, and they say they couldn't understand it. And I'm like, well, it says in there when you're ready, When you read this, you'll understand it. And there were times where I would try to read this online or try to listen to the audiobook version of it. And I like some of the quotes you find and the memes that are quotes out of this book, the Kybalion, and I thought they were neat and interesting, even as a Christian, but I didn't quite understand. And then I had bought a copy of this, I don't know, a couple of years. And then I finally just picked it up and actually read it cover to cover. And my mind was blown. But before that, I was listening to different New Thought teachers and manifestation teachers and metaphysics teachers on YouTube. And some of them, of course, now passed away, but they're recordings. There was Florence Scovel Shinn, there was Ernest Holmes, and there was my personal favorite, Neville Goddard. Now, Neville Goddard has some flaws in his teaching in certain things, but so does everyone. But he appealed to me because he used the Bible like Florence Scovel Shinn did. He used the Bible to help me slowly, and it took me 3 full years from 2016 to early 2016 to early 2019. It took me 3 years to finally set the Bible down and stop thinking of it as a physical, as a literal book, and started seeing it even as Aleister Crowley called it, a great occult book. It was just another occult teaching like the other religions of times past, whether it be the Greek religions, Roman religions, Babylonian religions, Oriental religions. All of these religions were actually meant to teach. Egyptian religions were meant to teach a metaphysical or mental truth. That all is mind, all is consciousness, as the Kybalion says. In its 7 principles, its first one, which I believe is the absolute law and the only true law, and everything falls under it, and that is, all is mind, the universe is mental. And so the universe is not something with the cosmos and the solar systems out here and things like that. The universe is the universal mind. So you can call it the universe, referring to it as mind. You can call it the universal mind. You can call it source. You can call it God. Because God and gods and demons and angels and devils and anything between, in all the different sacred, so-called sacred texts, spiritual texts, metaphysical texts, really occult or mystery texts, because all religions, Egyptian, Babylonian, Greek, Roman, and all of that, all religions, including American Indian religions, all of them are actually mystery schools. And so Manly P. Hall, who when I was a young boy, when I was 14 years old, as a Southern Baptist, started hearing about the conspiracies of this New World Order and One World Government. This was in the early 80s. And that term was later used in the early 90s by George Bush Sr., New World Order. Okay, and I remember going, wow, I've been reading about those conspiracies for years. And I even got a tattoo, and it says, crossing out the New World Order, right? I was very zealous. And I thought it was good versus evil. And I would hear about people like Manly P. Hall, and that they were 33rd degree Masons and they were evil and things like that. And he wrote this book, he wrote a few books, but this book here, The Masonic, Hermetic, Kabbalistic, and Rosicrucian Symbol Philosophy, and the title of the book is The Secret Teachings of All the Ages. And in this book, he explains how all the different religions are just mystery schools. You don't have to be Freemasonry or Rosicrucianism or Egyptian Hermeticism or Greek mysticism or anything like that. Platoism or whatever you call it. It can be Christianity, it can be Islam, it can be any of that. It's all teaching you a mystery in different ways. And so all the gods, demons, devils, all that are archetypes. Well, Neville Goddard explained that the Bible and all the characters in there were simply archetypes. The God of the Bible, Jehovah or Yahweh. The God in the flesh, Jesus Christ, Yeshua. Sounds like, Japanese samurai's angry at you. Yeshua! Anyhow, all of these, King David to Apostle Paul, from Timothy to Thomas to Adam and Eve, all of these are archetypes. They're states of mind, as Neville taught. And so when you start looking at the Bible that way, it made sense. And there were teachings that Jesus Christ said that made no sense to me. Like, he would talk about all these he'd have these parables that made no sense. And then, the teachings in the New Testament about he that hath, even he shall have more, but he that doesn't have will have, even that'll be taken from him. And it made no sense to me. There was a lot of teachings that made no sense. Until I began to looking at them from an occult or mystical or esoteric. Occult, mystic, and esoteric simply means hidden. And it's hidden from you. It's hidden from your 2 eyes. It's hidden from your ears. It's hidden from your lower mind, your below mind. and you're above mind. Heaven is here. It's the higher mind. When Jacob rested his head on a stone, and he had that dream of a ladder to heaven and angels going back and forth, that is the Kundalini snake in Hinduism going up and down your spine, or the 33 vertebrae. Everyone thinks 33 and all these different numbers are evil, like the number 6 and all that. That's superstition. It's religious superstition. And you have to sell all that to buy the pearl of great price. Now, the Kybalion calls this universal mind the all. So, and it says in it that the all is actually unknowable. Well, in the Tao Te Ching, which is Chinese mysticism, written by Lao Tzu, he talks about the Tao, which means the way. And he says no one can actually describe the Tao. No one can really put in words what the Tao is. Well, that's like in Hermetic mysticism of the Kybalion, the all. It's unknowable. Okay? The Bible talks about how God, his ways are above our ways, and his thoughts are beyond our thoughts, right? He's all-knowing, all-powerful, and everywhere all at once. Kind of like Santa Claus. You know, Santa Claus gives you good presents, right? He comes down. Well, the Bible talks about from the Father of lights comes down all good gifts, right? Coming down from heaven. That's your consciousness, your mind. You're giving it to yourself, okay? Your higher mind is giving it to your earthly self, okay? So, and in Christianity, in the New Testament, Christianity, according to the book of Acts, was originally called the Way, or the Tao. Okay, and it's all unknowable. You can't truly comprehend it. It's beyond us in our human form, our fallen Luciferian, fallen angel, or fallen Adam man sinful way, or the Christ, who was God come flesh, come man, lowered himself below the angels, it says, and became man. And again, Christ is an archetype. He's an archetype of you, of the Christ consciousness, or the anointed. Christ is Greek for anointed. The awakened mind, the awakened third eye. So you stop looking at things with your two eyeballs, including reading Bible verses with your two eyes, and start seeing things with your third eye. Now, I want to jump over here to the idea of the whole so-called objective material world. There are a lot of people who are materialists, and I don't mean materialists as in they want physical things. I'm talking about they only see the world, what they can see under a microscope, or see in a lab, or can see or touch with their human senses and feel or hear it or taste it, then it doesn't exist, right? Well, the unseen is more real than the seen. And ironically enough, that old holiness hillbilly preacher I talked about, he used to tell me that. He knew that there was something going on. But he just didn't understand because he was so stuck in the Bible, and so was I. But the material world is not material. It's not physical. The material world is mental. It is not physical. It is psychological. It is consciousness. Neville Goddard used to say, there's nothing but God. And I used to say, well, that makes sense as a Christian, as I was learning this stuff. And he said, there's nothing but God. And then he would say, God is your own wonderful human imagination. And sometimes he would speak of your imagination being consciousness, because it's one and the same. So, and then he said that he had a vision one time of God sitting in a full lotus position like he's meditating in, pagan Hinduism, right? And he said, then all of a sudden, God, who's sitting in this the full lotus position meditating, shatters into millions of pieces. And he knew that the millions of pieces was all of us humans, that God is the one mind is living through all of us. These experiences seemingly has fallen, okay? God, or Christ, the God-man, has become man, that man might become God. Neville loved to quote that quote. By that quote, it came from a Christian mystic, I believe it was in the early 300s or something like that. I can't remember his name. It starts with an A, Artemis or something like that. But anyway, he would say, God became man, that man would become God. He began to understand, this Christian mystic, he began to understand that there is no literal God to worship. God is an archetype. Christ is an archetype. You can think Allah as an archetype. You can think of Ra or Osiris or Odin or Thor as archetypes. States of mind, states of consciousness. Just like you can think of Satan or Ahriman, the devil in Zoroastrianism. All of those are just archetypes. They're states of mind. Perceptions. And Neville said that there is nothing but God, and God is consciousness, or mind. All is mind, as the Kybalion says. Now, then he would say there was nothing but states. And Neville got the idea of states of mind, or perceptions, multiple innumerable perceptions of mind. He got that idea of states from William Blake, the mystic poet. You can look him up if you don't know who he is. And he was a mystic, just like Neville. He was a mystic. And he understood that everything is actually just in the mind. Neville also would say that God was lucid dreaming through us. And if you know what a lucid dream is, it's where you awaken in a dream, like Neo in the movie The Matrix. You awaken, okay? But unlike in the movie The Matrix, this world is not a prison planet. Some people want to say it is, and it's not. Christian Gnostics, who have their own form of mysticism, they think that this world is a prison and that we're being held here by a demiurge, a creator god, Yahweh or Jehovah, that created but then doesn't want us to expand. There are people who believe that the Anunnaki aliens from another planet, solar system or whatever, came here and put their DNA, a little bit of their DNA in primates like gorillas or monkeys or chimpanzees or something, and created a slave race. And that's what mankind is, earthly man is. Humankind is a slave race, and that we have progressed and grown. And other aliens are watching us, and some hate us and don't want us to grow, and others are trying to protect us, and there's this big UFO war going on. This is the type of stuff that you'll find that people believe. Okay? I don't believe in any of that. I don't believe in causes. I don't believe in stories. I have a video titled to that effect if you want to check that out. I don't believe in any more stories or causes. I don't believe in good versus evil. I don't believe in any of that shit. If that's what you want to believe in, that's fine. That's you're going to find evidence to seemingly prove that to you. Because wherever your mind goes, that's what's going to be proven for you. That's what's going to manifest. Everyone's making videos about manifestation. It's going to be made known in your lucid dream world. All right? There is Tom Campbell, and he wrote the book, My Theory of Everything, My Big Toe. And I've read that book. I've bought a couple copies as gifts for people. And he's on YouTube. He's a nuclear physicist, a quantum physics scientist, or whatever you call it. And he found that he could go out of body at the Monroe Institute with Bob Monroe. And he could go out of his body, and him and other people have charted and documented they went out of their body, and they could go anywhere they wanted, and they could tell you what's in a warehouse in such and such state, states away, miles away, around the world, whatever. A lot of people have been able to go out of their mind through just straight meditation. Some people do it in laboratory settings like Thomas Campbell at the Monroe Institute, things like that. The Monroe Institute is still in Virginia. Then you have another quantum scientist or nuclear physicist, Federico Fagan. And he talks about how a beam of light shot out of his chest one time. He said it was a physical thing, a beam of light, something out of a sci-fi movie. And he felt this incredible feeling of love. And Thomas Campbell talks about love. Love is the most productive energy. And that's why the Bible says God is love. It's love. It's a passion. It's life. Okay. Then you have the nuclear scientist in Russia. Federico Fagan's Italian, but he's on YouTube. You'll see interviews of him on YouTube, podcasts with him. And then there is Vadim Zeland, who wrote the book Reality Transurfing, which I have and I've read. But Reality Transurfing, he was also a nuclear scientist, nuclear physicist, whatever you call it. And they have all found that consciousness is the only reality. Now, there are materialistic scientists who poo-poo all that, or what they'll do is they'll agree, yeah, consciousness is actually what makes up the material of subatomic particles and matter and things like that, but we're in some sort of simulation, and there's some sort of demiurge or God or being or beings that control us. Maybe it's aliens that control us, the computer program, and that everything is already set and you have no free will. Now, Neville taught that you have free will, and so does the scientist Thomas Campbell and others. They say you absolutely have to have free will because it wouldn't even be logical not to have free will. Like Thomas Campbell explains it, for us to not have free will, as experiencer nodes of the one mind, tentacles of experience, who have seemingly an amnesia, who don't see it all, like Apostle Paul wrote in the New Testament, we know in part and see in part, or know in part and prophesy in part and see through a glass darkly, or glasses that aren't quite focused. Because if we were all in its full form, or God as you call it, in its full form, it already knows everything. So you can't experience anything if you already know it. You see what I'm saying? So it does this so it can experience, and the experiencing is the breathing out and in, and the breathing out. Okay, I don't want to get into that, but in Nordic mysticism, it talks about Ragnarok and Götterdämmerung, Twilight of the Gods, the final war, and then the Twilight of the Gods. And then all of a sudden the universe collapses upon itself in the Great War, and then it begins to create again. This is the breathing in and out that mystics talk about of the universe. And so it experiences, goes back. And we are experiencing, we're a node of experience, a ray of the one sun. You say we are a soul or a spirit, but we're just a line of consciousness. We're a node of consciousness, an individuated node of consciousness, experiencing through each human being that we are. And the human being that we are has its own circumstances and how it was born and what race it is and gender it is and all its personalities and things like that. And you go with your character. It's like picking your character for a video game. And that character has certain parameters, but those parameters are pretty wide. Okay? So now you had Einstein, who talked about, he got frustrated because he was like, oh, spooky action. What a scientific technical term that was, huh? Spooky action, and we was talking about as a particle over here could be affected or do something, and then this particle could be miles away and it's instantly affected. The reason being is because there is no actual length, width, depth, or time. All is now, and all is one thing. But the universe, I like to use the analogy, it's like chewing bubble gum. You stretch it a little bit, you hold some of it in your teeth, and you stretch it out. This seemingly dual existence that we have. And this is where you have the Kybalion, and you have what I say is the one law. All is mind, the universe is mental. And that is the first of the 7 hermetic principles that are covered in the Kybalion. Okay? And the other one, of course, is correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, and gender. Gender, male, female, right? And so everything is all one. Everyone talks about how some people talk about how they are non-binary, and their gender or whatever. Well, the universe is non-binary. The universe is all one thing. There is no time, but here there is gender. There is male and female in all of nature. And there is also gender in mind. People talk about, the feminine energy and things like this, and the archetypes of the goddesses in the different teachings, whether it be Lilith, the Miss Demon supposedly herself, to it be Astarte, okay, or Dekete, or any of the different goddesses, Isis, any of them, right? They all represent the feminine energy. And then, of course, you have the masculine, the male demons, male angels, the male gods. These are all archetypes, all states of mind. But you have, where you have correspondence, you have vibration, which is a beat, rest, beat, rest, beat, rest. And that's the same, by the way, as rhythm. Okay, rhythm is a beat, rest, beat, rest. But vibration is also where you have your frequencies. You ever heard something like, your vibes, you got good vibes or bad vibes, or getting bad vibes? It's vibration. Or they talk about your vibe attracts your tribe. Well, it's not your frequency so much as your consciousness. Now, consciousness has frequency, but we don't know what frequency things are. We know what state we are in by how we're seeing the world. I'll get to that later. And you have polarity, the extremes, right, and everything in between. And you have cause and effect, Now, in the Kybalion, it coins the phrase game of life. Okay, it also in the first chapter, and it also coins the phrase law of attraction. No, I'm sorry, I think I got that back. Yeah, law of attraction is in the first chapter of the Kybalion. That's where that phrase comes from. And the phrase game of life is first mentioned in the second chapter of the Kybalion. So Florence Scovel Shinn wrote her book, The Game of Life, How to Play It. She was an early New Thought thinker. And I actually had heard her audio books on YouTube before I ran across Neville Goddard a couple of years later. I was kind of looking into some of that stuff, James Allen, then I broke away from it for a while. But in 2016, early 2016, some supernatural events happened to me to make me go back and study all this stuff. And I have been doing it head down, ears back, hardcore since. Okay. And living it in my life. All right, and we'll get to that in a moment. The practical application of all this. Nikola Tesla talked about how information would just come to his head. He talked about all of these things about frequency and vibration, and people know, he talked about, you want to know the mystery of the universe, study frequency and vibration. You want to know the mystery of the universe, study the numbers 3, 6, and 9, which has to do with frequency and rhythm and vibration and rhythm and things like that. So Matter is made up of dream material. That's what it is. It's not physical. This world is not the objective world. It is the subjective world. It is subjective to where you put your intention. Your intention and your attention. Do you put your, if you intend to have the bills paid this week, even though you don't have the money for it in your bank account right now, do you have the intention that they're paid? Or do you put your, you say, well, that's my intention, but where's your attention? Are you putting your attention that it's done? Let me go into this. Now, Neville Goddard talked again, states are nothing but perceptions. You can see things from the world from the state of, I have plenty of money, more than enough money, I'm healthy, I'm the weight I want to be, I have the body I want, I have the love that I want in my life from family, friends, romantic love, marital love, whatever. You can put your, you can have all the attentions and wants and desires in your life all you want. But where you put your attention, where you put your focus. This is not about positive thinking. This is not about ignoring negative thoughts. This is about relaxing and realizing the true way, the Tao Te Ching, the true way is to allow the thoughts and emotions to come. But it's like, I like the analogy. I've never heard anybody use this analogy, so I like this one. Came up with it on my own. I like this one. It's like you're sitting somewhere and you're watching cars go by on a highway, right? And there's big trucks, there's red Volkswagens, there's motorcycles, there's buses, there's, you know, a pickup truck, there's a car, there's a sports car going by. And then all of a sudden you decide to lock in on something, a green pickup truck. And you lock in on that one. Then that's where your attention is. And where your attention is, where energy grows. Okay? Now, Carl Jung, who I believe is the true father of modern psychology, not Sigmund Freud, but anyway, he, to me, was actually a metaphysician and a mystic. Because you're taking consciousness and psychology and stuff, and you're making it practical with an understanding, a metaphysical understanding, and a mystical understanding. He's the one that gave us the term, synchronicity. He's the one who gave us the term synchronicity, where seemingly magical things happen. You know, you're thinking of something and boom, something happens. And I'm not talking about your phone listening to you and an ad popping up. That's something different. That's artificial. I'm talking about things that nobody could interfere with. Just whatever you think of, where attention is, that's what's going to be true for you. So if you're focusing on that green truck going down the road, you're aware of all these other thoughts and cars. They don't distract you because you're focused on that one thing. Okay, so Neville taught that the states are these perceptions and how you see things. It's like if you're looking at something outside and you're standing outside and you're looking at something, but there's a tree kind of in the way or whatever, and you adjust yourself so you can see that thing past that tree a little bit better, you're changing your perception, which is to change your state. So how do you see money? Do you see it as something you have to hard to come by, or the economy's bad, so it's rough on you too? Or health, you know, I got to eat a certain way, I got to do this, or I can't lose the weight, or I can't be healthy. Do you put these conditions? These are religious conditions that you're putting on yourself, okay? Well, let me go here first. Neville Goddard taught, and he had this phrase, feeling is the secret. And he wrote a book, of his 10 books that he wrote, and did numerous lectures. Many of the transcripts and the audio recordings of lectures can be found on the internet. But feeling is the secret. And what he meant, and I've read his books more than once, all 10 of his books more than once, cover to cover, and listened to his lectures over and over and over and over and over. Feeling is the secret. Well, he had to explain, because Neville made some mistakes, in my opinion, about how he taught certain things, but he was on the right track of how things work. Don't get me wrong with that. Feeling, and he taught some wonderful things that no one else that I have seen has ever taught. One of them is about the states. Because to me, that makes it really easy. All you have to do is tell someone, what state of mind are you in? And then I notice a lot of good manifesting teachers on YouTube, and I'm not one, I'm just me, okay? But they have taken so many things that Neville taught, and they've expounded upon and gone forward with it, and left behind the things that he taught that we no longer need, and things like that. Things like about subconscious mind and stuff like that. By the way, Carl Jung, you know, he taught us that what you resist persists. So if you try to fight the thought that the other cars are on the highway, right? If you resist things, you're actually putting energy there. It is an all-inclusive universe, or universal mind. You can't exclude something by trying to ignore it, and definitely not by focusing on the negative thing you don't like, but also trying to force it away. As you know, in your physical body, what becomes manifest in your dream body here in this dream world, dream matrix, you as God are living, or the source or the all is living through this video game avatar you have, your human self. You will notice that sometimes you can build up health problems in your body simply by holding things back in your mind. Anger, rage, resentment, guilt, all of these type of things. German New Medicine, to me, is metaphysical. It explains it. Look up the term German New Medicine, Dr. Hammer. German New Medicine explains this quite well, I think. And it explains that all it is a manifestation of something that where your mind is going. You know, I started this out with a hangman and one of my wife's tarot decks. She collects tarot decks, and one of the cards. And tarot can tell you where you're at. Now, a lot of manifesting people don't use tarot. It's helped me sometimes. Sometimes it has actually helped me. It will kind of let you know where you're at, so if you need to change your focus or something like that. Okay? So Carl Jung, he also taught about shadows. So it's that your character comes prepackaged with certain looks it's just going to have, okay? And what race you're going to be, certain sexual organs, you know, whatever, if you're going to be born missing a foot, you know, these type of things. And you're going to have all of those things in your personality. Oh, sometimes, you know, all of us have shadows, okay? That darkness in us that we're ashamed of. Christianity makes you feel so fucking guilty and feel down all the time. Well, there were two things that I make no bones about it. That my anger, my rage, my revenge, that it's not that I was always wrong about, you know, being angry or, you know, about something or somebody, but I would hold on to it too much. Or my lust, it caused me problems in relationships sometimes. My lust and things like that, sexual lust. But you can have lust for all sorts of things, right? So I learned in other things, other dark aspects of myself, I've learned, like Carl Jung talked about, you alchemize. I have the symbol for alchemy right here, which is also on this edition of the Kybalion. And I've learned to alchemize that and use it like a spice in my cooking. You know, you don't want to put too much sugar or make something too sweet or too spicy or whatever. But you use that energy instead of ignoring it. And what I'm saying is you can't exclude things. So what you do is you either include them, or let's say you see on your bank account, it says empty, or you look at your wallet or your purse or whatever, and there's just no money and you got to pay the bills here. And I'll go further into how to do this, but what I have learned, I'm going to just share in this video. But you learn that, okay, I see what I don't want now. I see the darkness within me. I see this. I see anything. I see the other cars on the road, but I'm interested in this green pickup truck, and all of these sorts of things, right? So you acknowledge that, but you say you deny it as your truth. You see it as a possibility, not a probability. It's a possibility, because all states, as the Kybalion says, exist. Every possibility exists for your human character that you're playing. You get to choose whether that character goes through life sickly, lonely, broke, and just a failure, or what we call a failure, or you can go through life realizing that you can have those things. Now, Neville taught that desire is divine. Now, I have my own saying. It's not copyrighted. It's not patented or trademarked, because I am an anarchist or non-statist. I truly, honestly am. I don't believe in man-made government. Topics for other videos. So I don't believe in trademarks. You can steal it. I don't care. You can put it in your videos. You can put it on your t-shirt. I don't care. But Neville used to say desire is divine. And that was one of a few things that he said that really, really helped me. One of them was when he said there's nothing but God. There's nothing but God. The Kybalion says there's nothing but mind, right? So it made sense to me. And he said God is consciousness. God is your imagination. So your mind, your awareness of being, as he would say. Well, for me, I say desire is divine. It's from your higher mind, heaven. Higher mind, your soul, spirit, whatever you want to call it. But it's from higher mind, from source, whatever. Desire for a better job, desire for this, desire for that. Because understand, as I said, Thomas Campbell said the purpose of the universe is it wants to expand, it wants to experience. Now, as Thomas Campbell explains, the physicist Thomas Campbell says that there is experience. It can experience the bad things. Your illnesses, your miseries in life, going to prison, any kind of shit. That's still experience. But it would rather experience through the energy. You know how you get when you love and you're exciting what's going on and things are just, you're in the zone in your life and your business is growing, or you're just getting raises at work and get promotions, or or whatever it is, you're writing your book and it's getting published. All these things are exciting. You know, you fall in love and it's just, all these things are just so exciting and they're just expanding. See, the more energy, that's the love energy, right? Okay, love and light. Well, there is some truth to the whole love and light thing, but anyway, Neville would say desire is divine. So when you have a desire, it's higher mind telling your human self what it can have. Your human self either goes, no, I can't have it, or it starts to immediately try to figure it out. And then if it can't figure it out, it gets frustrated, or it tries to force things. And I have learned in my life, my wife will tell you, I have learned in my life, and I say it in my videos, I have tried to force things in my life, all kinds of situations, I always ended up fucked up, miserable. I got half-assed results or things failed, and I learned I'm not going to force anything anymore. Okay, so anything I need or whatever, I just accept it's already a done deal. Neville used to say when a desire comes upon you, he would quote the Bible verse that says, today is a day of salvation. He said, when a desire comes upon you, just accept it. I heard a recording of a guy talking about how he's life, he's doing great, his business, he has money, he's happy, everything's going on in his life, and he said he gets kind of frustrated because things manifest so quickly for him. Does he use special manifesting techniques? Not a fucking one. He just says whenever something comes upon him, he says, I just accept it's a done deal. It's going to happen. I don't even know if he knows about Neville Goddard's teachings, and he just accepts it, and he says, boom, stuff happens. So, and he believes the stuff that I'm talking about as far as consciousness and manifestation, metaphysics. So anyway, this guy that I'm talking about, I don't know what his name was, but it was cool to hear him say this. Another guy I seen interviewed years ago on a YouTube video, like 2016, and he said that he had given up on life. He was just going to kill himself. He was just going to self-delete. And he had come across some stuff about manifestation and how life is not, it's not the outer world affecting you. You're choosing the outer world. It's not the mirror affecting you, the image in the mirror. It's you that's in the mirror, that's looking at the mirror, right? And so he was understanding about this manifestation and metaphysics and stuff, and he said, wow, this video's long. And he said, I don't care. I'm going to put the whole thing out in this video. He said he realized, hopefully it's interesting enough for you. He said he realized, you know what? Fuck it. I'll give it 6 months. Well, it was years later when he's being interviewed, and he said, yeah. He said, you create your own reality by what you choose. Now, you don't create, you don't law of attract, you don't attract anything, you don't manifest anything. You are choosing. You're a chooser node. You're an experiencer node of the one mind. You get to experience. You have this human mind to filter, which is a VR headset, like in a video game, playing a video game with a VR headset on. And you have these 5 senses, and I call the 6th sense your human brain in your lower mind. And you see things through the glass darkly, you know in part, prophesy in part, so that you can experience, because the all itself already knows. So it wants to experience, and the only way it can do that is basically dumb itself down, okay, and come as man, all right, in this matrix world. Now, Neville will talk about, I was going to say, my saying is, desire is divine. It comes from your higher mind. It is telling you what you can have or experience if you will accept it to be true and allow it to happen. Now, let me go further in this because I don't want this video to be too long. Neville would say feeling is a secret. He titled the book that, Feeling is a Secret. It's not a feeling or I believe it or I have faith. It is a feeling is a secret. Let me explain this. He said afterwards, one of his lectures, someone said, you talk about feeling, you're talking about emotion. He said, I never said anything about emotion. He said, I'm talking about the feeling of acceptance. So desire is divine. It's your higher mind telling you what you can and will experience or have if you will accept it to be true and allow it to happen. Now, Neville always talked about feel it real. That was, he would feel it real. Another place he would talk about in his lectures or his writing, capture the feeling. What is this feeling? It's a feeling of acceptance, of doneness, like it's fucking done. It's a fact. He would talk about live in the end. See the world from that state of mind that's you've already taken that trip. You've already got the bill paid, even though you don't have the money. You're already healthy. You're already the weight you want to be. See the world from that. And so he came up with this phrase, law of assumption. Some people use law of attraction, that phrase, and some people say law of assumption, which they got from Neville Goddard. It's not really a fucking law. It's just simply you assume, because the only law there is, I'll tell you, is mind. There's nothing else but consciousness. Everything else is just principles and things like that, okay? Even Neville said, and I can't remember which lecture or which book he put it in, but he said all is mind, or all is consciousness, and everything else is commentary. That's kind of a paraphrase what he said. Everything else is commentary, including him, the things he fucking said. So it's not a law of assumption, but you are just assuming or accepting it to happen. It's just done. It's just a fact to you. The best way I've ever heard it explained in YouTube videos by manifesting teachers is relief. It's like, ah. Now, Neville taught it in mystery schools. They teach it like it's a sexual orgasm, like you've already had the orgasm. Like you've already had the great sex and you're smoking a cigarette, right? You've already had the great meal and you're smoking your cigar, right? And enjoying your glass of brandy. You've already had it. You're living in the end. You've already had that new house for a while now. You've already had that marriage for a while now. You've already had the new vehicle you want for a while now. You already got the better job or the raise you want. Or you're already walking in the store from the parking space that you wanted. When you were driving there, imagining, saying to yourself, I had that parking space. By the way, Neville talked about imagination. People go off and they take his state akin to sleeps or his SATS thing and his imagining techniques, manifesting techniques. All techniques are, whether they're Neville's or anybody's, all manifesting techniques is getting you to where you feel the acceptance already fucking done. It's kind of like having a dream or a vision that you already won the lottery. A guy had that one time. He won the lottery in a dream, and then it fucking happened. Neville had a dream. He got out of the army during World War II honorably, and even though he was rejected when he tried to get out, he was already officially rejected. He held on to that for about 9 days, and bam, he was honorably discharged, right? But he had a dream. It was done. Another young man on YouTube, he had a dream that he had won the lottery. And he did. He won $1 million, a little over $1 million or something like that. He took the payout or whatever, and he was able to pay off some debts and put himself, he wanted to go through school. He's on, I can't remember his name, but it's been years since he did that. And he's already went to the training, schooling that he wanted, or college or something like that. But it helped him. If you have a dream, something's happened. Well, that's what desire is. Neville said desire is prophecy. He said, if a man will tell me his desires, I'll tell you his future. And what he meant was, if that man will accept those to already be true and just go about his business and allow it to happen, it'll fucking happen. Now, that feeling of relief, once you have something, do you keep looking for it? So once you feel the relief, don't even try anything. Now, Neville will talk about don't lift a finger. That's what he would say. He would say it's an illusion. He said, do nothing, for it's an illusion that you can do anything. And people talk about, oh, you got to take inspired action, or no one understands what Neville meant. No, Neville was very clear. He said, what you do is already done by you. By choosing that state, you will take those actions in the near future on your own, okay? And so Neville was trying to teach. And now one thing I like about Neville is he never taught you how to clear out your bad karma, and to clear up your chakras. You are a chakra. All the 7 chakras separated are just simply one. You are that chakra of energy. Anyway, you had to clear up your chakras, all 7 chakras, so the Kundalini snake can go up, all this bullshit. He never taught that you had to clear out your trauma or anything like that. Why did Neville do that? Why did he not do any of those things? Because he knew the fucking truth. He knew all his consciousness, all his mind. If you want to keep staying in the state of victim mindset of what was done to you as a child, what was done to you last week by your boss, your spouse, or anybody, you want to stay as a victim of the government, that's who you are. That's how you see the world. But when you begin to realize that this world is subjective to your consciousness and what you choose is true for you, but see, you have to become the hanged man. You have to give yourself up, and the hanged man is smiling and has this ray of light. He's happy, he's chilling, man, because it's ecstasy. Neville Goddard talked about he had an experience, a mystic experience, that he was Christ on the cross. Some people say it's blasphemy, but Christ is an archetype, it's not literal. But anyhow, I believe that he was a literal being for 38 years. But anyway, he said it's actually the crucifixion's ecstasy. And what he was referring to was actually the hanged man. Okay, Odin hung upon a tree for 9 days, just like Neville waited 9 days to get out of the army, even though he was already stamped with disapproved. He couldn't get out when he put in a request to get out of the army in the middle of World War II, and he wanted out honorably 9 days later. Even though there was no other channels he could do, he still, in his mind, would go to bed every night in the military cot in his barracks. And he said this, that he was already at home with his family. And 9 days later, his CEO, for no reason, just calls him in there, says, okay, I'll let you out, right? So he had this, like he was Christ on the cross. He says it's pure ecstasy. It is ecstasy. When you give up every fucking thing else in your life, and you just say all is mind, all is consciousness, you give up you stop blaming other people, stop blaming the government. Hey, I can't stand the government. I've always hated the government. I've always thought it was stupid. But anyhow, Corporations, a lot of corporations are abusive. The medical industry, the food industry, the education industry, all these so-called entertainment industry, movie making industry. We know what those things do. Those are their own ergomores, or as Vadim Zeland puts them in his book, Reality Transurfing, he calls them pendulums. This is the collective, because you have to understand, everyone is individual. I just uploaded a video titled, You Are a God Among Gods. Everyone's a sovereign God, but we're all having our own experience. We're all fingers of the same hand. That hand is the all, the universe, the universal mind, source, or God. And we're all living as individuated nodes of experience. We have free will, but it's only for one thing, to choose what we will experience. And you choose not by saying, I want this to happen, not by hoping it's going to happen, not believing it's going to happen, not by trying to figure out how it's going to happen, not trying to force out how it's going to happen. You choose by simply what state of mind you want. You get to choose your state of mind, whether it's happened or not. That's up to you. You have that freedom, and that will show you you are God. Now, there are, again, as far as talking about Vadim Zeland and all these guys that were into, quantum physics and nuclear scientists and stuff like that. I think I'm saying that right. Nuclear, whatever. They talk in quantum science, they talk about string theory. Even the Kybali mentions it. The term corpuscles. They talk about this is a simulation because they have to acknowledge it as consciousness. That the double slit experiment, which has been done for decades by different scientists in different laboratories in different countries, and they all keep coming up with the exact same result. The double slit experiment, YouTube it, Google it, if you don't already know what it is. And it's telling you those biophotons, those subatomic particles, are consciousness. And there's your spooky action. If there's a scientist or whatever observes, even if they try to video it, it knows it's being videoed and going to be watched later, so it behaves a certain way. The particles do. Check it out. Double slit experiment. Because everything is just dream material. It's crystallized light. Now, everything is one, so there's only the eternal now. Okay, but it is seemingly slowed down, so we have a past and a present and a future. But if you were to go in a time machine and went to your past or went to the future, you'd only be in that now. So there's only the eternal now. Everything's all one thing, as the Kybalion talks about. Temperature is one thing. There's heat and cold. Okay, distance, near, far. Everything is only one thing, and it's actually all one thing, all within the one mind. One mind. So all of us are just the one mind. All rays of the same sun, having different experiences. And we are free to choose what we're going to experience. You look at your bank account, I don't have the money to make this trip. I don't have the money to fix my vehicle. I don't have the money to pay these bills. Or you can look at it and go, you know what? I desire this. So higher mind is telling me what I can have. I'm just going to feel like it's a done deal, not stress about it. I have learned, I say in my videos, I have learned not to stress or worry about bills or anything anymore. I simply choose what I want done as already done. Now, if there's any information I need to know in my physical brain, anything I need to say, any questions I need to ask of someone, all events will play out, and that information will come to me. I'll know how to talk to somebody or ask this question. I've had this many times. And this is where the Tao Te Ching talks about Wu Wei, which is Chinese for effortless action. And you just flow through life. The Hermetic mysticism talks about flow. Flowing through life. This is the way. Not the Mandalorian, okay? This is the way. This is the Tao Te Ching, the way. And Christianity was first called, not Christianity, it was called the way. The way. This is the conscience, the Christ mind, the enlightened mind. Or the Luciferian. Lucifer was the Shekinah glory, the light about God's throne, okay? This is the way, all right? Is your mind accepting what you want to be true for you, no matter what. People have done this up to the last minute. Even afterwards, it seems like, oh man, I didn't get that deal. Neville got rejected out of the army. Neville's story about getting the tickets for a play called Aida for his brother and friend. Neville didn't want to go, but he went to go get the tickets for him. He stands in line at the long ticket booth line, and he can see signs that say Aida sold out, but they were selling other tickets. He stayed in line the whole time, knowing he's already going to have tickets anyway. I mean, that's brazen impudence. Neville talks about that in the New Testament teaching of the woman who had that brazen impudence, would not take no from a judge. There's another parable in the New Testament, talks about a man knocking on his friend's door saying, I need food. Can you give me some bread and food for me and my family? And his friend's like, I'm already in bed, blah, blah, blah. And he wouldn't stop knocking, right? Don't just absolutely have praise and impudence. Be fucking stubborn. impudent about. No, because desire's already told you can have it. So don't give a fuck. Just literally don't give a fuck with this outer world, this outer dream world, lucid dream, because you get to choose. It's like a lucid dream. If you ever had a lucid dream, you get to choose how that dream goes, how things go in that dream, okay? So you choose it, and once you choose, you have the right to choose. But how it comes and when it comes is not up to you. It's not your worry. It'll come in cool fucking ways. Neville talked about bridges of incident. Because time is stretched out, you're going to have a story to tell afterwards. Now, don't do what some people do and change the story and act like you did it all, made it all happen, or it was luck or whatever. But you can. Neville talked about that. He said some people can manifest some wonderful things and then go back to sleep and forget and say, oh, it would have happened anyway. Now, your friends and family may say it all would have happened, but you should know better. All is mind, all is consciousness, and that's all there is to it. So when you accept something as true for you, just accept it and don't fucking worry about it. I don't worry about tomorrow. I don't worry about anything anymore. Because worry is telling me, it's like the rumble strips on the highway here in America, the highways, when we're fixing to take a long trip here, me and my family, to go see some family. And when you are driving and you start getting nodding off, things like that, the rumble strips, I don't know if that's a cool sound effect, but anyway, it lets you know, hey, I'm going off a little bit. Worry, stress, anything is trying to angst it out is telling you, stop, just stop. It's not for your human mind to figure it out. Okay? Now, it's not for you to try to force anything. Don't worry. People talk about inspired action, but you won't know you're taking inspired action. That's the thing about flow. You don't know you're in the state of flow when you're in the state of flow. So when you are having things happen and they're happening, you may not know you took that wrong turn, but it actually takes you somewhere, or you went to the wrong store, but you find what you're looking for. You accidentally dialed the wrong number and you call somebody else and it's a different friend or somebody, but you don't know. You have no idea. Things come out of the blue all the time. You'd be cursed with, the doctor curses you and pronounces upon you, prophesies upon you, you have so long to live because of cancer or some other disease or whatever, and you just don't accept it. People do this all the time. They just don't accept it anymore. They just don't focus their attention on that. They focus their attention on enjoying their life. And if they're like, well, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die, and I'm going to go ahead and enjoy my life. The next thing you know, that 6 months, the doctor pronounced him dead, turned into 16. That's literally happened. I've heard of a story like that. I've heard of quite a few stories like that. So reality is what you say it is. Because you are a chooser node, you can do nothing but choose. Neville said you only had one freedom, to choose. The actions you take after that, sure, you can try to force things. Sure, you can try to figure things out. Sure, you can talk people into things, but why? Okay, you don't like how your spouse is treating you or a coworker or whatever. You get to choose. It's not about mental telepathy or forcing anybody with some sort of mind magic or verbal psychology and all that kind of shit and talk them into things. You do want, communication is very key in all human interaction and relationships. You do want to communicate, but you don't want to argue and fuss and fight, right? So you just, in your mind, say, I imagine that me and your spouse, your friend, or coworker or whatever, you're having this fuss and fight, a neighbor or whatever, that we're having. It could be just the person down at the store, the employee there, they whatever. You can just say, choose. You can choose. It's going to be, we get along just fine. And even the first few times, first few weeks, whatever, don't worry about it. We have a great relationship. We get along just fine. That's how I choose to experience that person, even if they're an asshole to everybody else. You see, because you get to choose. No one on the outside of you, and I got videos about this. You can see them on my channel. No one gets to choose your reality but you. There's no outer God. There's nothing. There's no theology, ideology, or philosophy you have to know. All you need to know is everything's always working out for you, period. That's the automatic set point. It truly is like the analogy that's used by some that teach this, the cork. The cork, like a fishing cork on a fishing line. If you pull that cork under the water, that's your resistance. That's called resistance, your frequency or vibrational resistance. And all that simply is the rumble strips on the road telling you, I'm trying to figure things out, I'm trying to force it out. Neville said you can do nothing, including you can't not just do things physically, you can't figure it out. So don't even bother. Let the fucking cork go. Enjoy your life in the moment. And it seems like everything's burning down around you. All you have to do is go inwardly and choose what you want. To choose the car you want. Know that all the other possibilities, other cars are out there. You're not fighting it or anything like that. The negative thoughts and frustrations and worries that come and go in your body and your human self, let them come and go. But say, deep down, you are that still, quiet voice. That still small voice, I believe it's in the book of Isaiah, talks about. You are that single eyeball, that so-called Illuminati eyeball. That's your third eye. You are conscious awareness. You are eternal conscious awareness. It's already been proven this by out-of-body experiences, and those have been documented and proven. You are consciousness. You're not your physical brain. You're not your body. You're not your nervous system, your brain, your spine. That's just your VR headset you're using to experience this dream world. That's why when you go out of body, you can seemingly float around, see all kinds, you can observe all kinds of things. Because you are nothing but the one eye, the illuminated eye, the eternally illuminated eye, conscious awareness. By the way, you don't have to do anything to become spiritually enlightened. You already are. You don't have to do anything to become perfect because you are. Your human self has its own stories and so-called imperfections. That's just its story. But you are new in every moment because the last second ago doesn't exist. The future hasn't been played. There's only the eternal now. So once you understand these things, and this is how the nature of consciousness, and I've already gone over an hour in this video, but you understand the nature of consciousness and understand the nature of life, and you realize you're not a victim of anything, but simply wrong thinking. That's what depression is. It's just wrong thinking, getting a negative spiral, keep thinking in the same. Okay, that's where the Hindu word or Sanskrit word karma comes from, by the way. It's what it means is momentum. You want to stop a momentum of negativity in your life or whatever, just stop feeding it. Don't try to force to stop it. Just stop feeding it. And it's like pushing a ball, down the road or whatever with your foot. You just stop pushing it. Eventually, it's going to roll for a little bit. That's just momentum. Don't worry about it. And you start focusing on what the ball you really want to go, the momentum you really want to go. I always have plenty of money. I am healthy. I am happily married. I'm in a happy relationship. I have a great job. The book I want published is published. I don't care what other publishers keep rejecting. You got it published. That's an example, okay? Another Sanskrit word, Ananda, I think is how I'm saying it properly, and Joseph Campbell, who was like Manly P. Hall. Now, Manly P. Hall did comparative religious studies, but he did them more from the mystery school version. He studied Egyptian religions and Babylonian religions, Roman and Greek religions and things like that. But Joseph Campbell also did comparative religious studies. And in a famous interview of his, he was asked, what's it all sum up, all these different religions? And he said, follow your bliss. He didn't say, serve the right God, or be submissive to God, or be submissive. He simply said, follow your bliss. When you're following your bliss, you're actually doing God's will. I used to pray for years. God, I just want you to do your will. I'd fast and pray. I just want to do your will. Whatever you want me to do, I keep fucking things up. Help me. Follow your bliss. Follow your desires. Well, how's that going to happen? I have this desire for a happy marriage. I have a desire for this. I have a desire for this bill to be paid. I have a desire to get a free cup of coffee. It doesn't matter. Don't judge your desires. Accept them as true. No matter how impossible or silly or minute or huge they seem, that's submitting to God. That's what I discovered. In my desire to submit to God, I was submitting to heaven, the higher mind. Not this physical mind that's inside the brain, gray matter that's inside the cranium here, but your higher mind, the higher mind, heaven, as above, so below. As below, so above. Just like Christ told Peter, I give unto you the keys of the kingdom, and whatsoever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Whatsoever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven. That was a verse that never made sense to me until I understand mysticism. But Joseph Campbell said, follow your bliss. And where he got the word bliss, that's best English. It's kind of sloppy translation. We don't really have a good word for the word bliss, or I'm sorry, for ananda. But we do have a chemical in our brain, a hormone, a biochemical in our brain called an anandine, I believe is what you say. And that chemical is kicked when we're having joy, when we're in flow. It's kicked in. So following your bliss is following your desires and living your greatest desires. Well, Thomas Campbell talks about that. Now, by the way, as far as going through negative things, you're going to have, in this life, you're going to have tribulation. Jesus said that. In this life, you have tribulation, but be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. Christ being your higher mind, your higher self, has overcome this world. It's not subjective. So live in this world and enjoy your life. The Kybalion talks about once you're awakened that there's going to be a swing of the pendulum back and forth. There's going to be good times and bad times. But once you're awakened in your mind, the bad times lessens. What it talks about in the Kybalion, the swing of the pendulum isn't as bad because now you're awakened. So that's what Christ was talking about. Be of good cheer, for your higher mind can overcome anything. Don't worry about it. But you're going to have, your dog's going to die, you're going to have relatives are going to die, you're going to die someday. You have good times, bad times. You're supposed to enjoy this polarity of this life. There's going to be poverty. There's always going to be people poor. There's always going to be people suffering. There's always going to be oppressive government, asshole corporations, illness. There's always going to be these things. And because this world, there has to be all these possibilities, all the different cars going down the road. But you focus on the ones that are right. You want to see a better world? Be what you want to see. Share this and live this life and share it with people. Begin to awaken when you have awakened and you begin to live this life like I'm doing. I told my wife, I said, when I begin to understand this stuff, I said, I want to share this to the world, what I've learned and know. And I don't want to be paid for it. I'd rather have my money from some other source. The Bible says free to give, or free to receive, free to give, right? Well, and I have to use Bible language because I've studied the Bible so many years. That's the one text I really know. But now I just see it as an occult, mystical book, right? With a lot of bullshit written in it too that's been added, but that's a different story. But anyhow, I want to share this with the world. And if I told my wife, I said, if I could find the one thing that helps, just helps everybody, I would give it freely. Because I know wealth and abundance will come to me some other way. I have no desire. If my videos were to go viral, that would make me so happy. And people enjoy them and they thumb them up, all that kind of stuff. That make me happy. But I'm not interested in being YouTube famous or making money off of YouTube anyway. I don't want to make any money off of teaching this stuff. I want to share it with people freely because I want them to. It helped me. Man, it fucking helped me. I was just a miserable, confused person, stuck in theology, very, very, could be a very toxic theology and ideology that I had come to believe in the Bible. And so that is what that is. But like I said, I've already went on so long in this video, but hopefully this video has been interesting to you and has helped you. If anything, I've made record, and this will probably be my last long video on metaphysics. So I don't plan on making any more long videos. I like to keep my videos about 15 minutes or so. They say the average attention span is 20 minutes anyway. So, if I make videos, plus I make videos about other things about work or whatever, just for the fun of it, just silly stuff I make. And I upload some music or something every now and then. But so that's that. But just immediately accept it's done. Just accept that it's done. And don't worry about, well, what about this? What about that? By the way, I do want to throw in one thing. People talk about, well, children. My wife and I were talking about this yesterday. Well, what about children? You don't get no choice of how you're born, or the abuse you go through, or the hard times, or maybe you're in a war-torn country, or you've just been abused, or whatever. All these things, poverty, things like that. What about all that? That's higher mind gets to choose all that, buddy. That's higher mind. You need to stop thinking, okay, people talk about ego. Ego's not bad, nor is pride bad. False pride is bad. But ego is not, it's just that's your human VR headset. That's your human mind, your lower mind, as above, so below, as below, so above. As within, so without, as without, so within, because it's all one thing. But your human mind, your human ego, it can't help itself. It's not bad, it's not evil. The only reason it does any evil anyway is out of fear. Everything's out of fear. Whether it is greed, lust, anger, anxiety, worry, stressing, it's all out of fear. Hate, all of that is out of fear. Now, I'm not saying you can't hate at all. I'm not saying you can't be angry. That you're supposed to enjoy your human life, right? But you always come back to the middle, or the Sophia, the balance, right? The Kybalion talks about the balance. In Luciferianism, you can call it the Baphomet, all right? The Knights Templar were accused of worshiping something called the Baphomet. And then later, I think it was John Waite, I can't remember who it was, that drew up the written description of this Baphomet. He drew it up as a goat and all this, that, and the other. An hermaphrodite, both genders, goat, one hand up, one down. That's representing as above, so below. It's representing oneness. It's representing the middle. Sophia, the goddess Sophia, represents the middle. You bring things to the middle, enjoy your life. You're still human. You can enjoy your human pleasures. You can enjoy all of these things, but now you do it not from a state of fear or worry or competition. There is no lack. The Bible has the story of the fishes and loaves. That's telling you there's no lack. There's from the little boy going to the market and getting some fishes and loaves to bring back home, and Jesus feeds all these thousands of people twice. That didn't literally happen. That is telling you a literal truth, though. that there is no lack. It's an illusion that there's a lack of fresh air, good water, good food, plenty of money for everyone, gasoline. That's all an illusion. All this fear mongering and stuff that goes on, the government and the outer world is always trying to throw different fears at you. Different cars going down the road. Which one do you want to focus on? Do you want to focus on some fears, or do you want to focus on things going good for you no matter what's going on? People talk about, well, that's being selfish or whatever. You are your own God, and everything you do in life is for selfishness, for self-serving. It doesn't matter if you lay your life down for your brother. No greater love than this than a man lay down his life for his brother. Okay, Jesus said. Even that is selfishness. A mother gives and does and is nurturing to her children. A wife is to her husband or to her family. All these type of things. That's not because she's selfless. It's because she's truly selfish. She's serving the true desire she has. She enjoys doing good for his children and doing good for her husband and family. Okay? A man that does for his family and does for his wife and his children and does for his community and things like that. He's doing that because it makes him feel good. You see? So, matter of fact, does helping other people, does it make you feel bad? Okay? Now, by the way, if there's certain people you don't want to help, hey, I agree with Anton LaVey and his Satanism, and one of his 9 principles of Satanism is don't waste love on ingrates. Some people, why waste your energy with that? You see, you get to choose. Don't let anybody guilt you is what I'm saying. Guilt you. If you want to be in a sexual orgy, okay, anything that you want to do, as long as you're not harming others, consenting adults, that's your business. You see, as a former Christian, I'm saying this. If you want a lesbian relationship, homosexual, as long as it is a consenting adults, okay, be who you want to be. Do what you want to do, as long as you're not harming other people. The only time you're going to harm other people is out of fear. You're going to rob a bank or purse snatch because out of fear that there's not enough money for you. That's why people do the things they do. A lot of people do criminal things because out of fear. Out of fear, okay? All right, why do the super wealthy do the certain things? They want to be, social controllers and social engineers and all that, right? We could say it's arrogance and false pride and things like this, that, and the other, right? But they have no power over you unless you say they have power over you. That goes for the local government to even your boss. No one has power over you except you give them. Jesus said, he told Pilate, he says, you have no power over me except what's given to you by my Father in heaven, which is the higher mind, right? No thing, no disease, no money situation, no government, no country situation, social situation has any power over you unless you join what Vadim Zeland calls the pendulum, and the Kybalion talks about the pendulum, a collective energy, because we're all individuals. We're all experiencing the same thing. We're all experiencing the same thing about prices in the grocery store or low prices, high prices, whatever. We're experiencing the same stuff, but it's the perception you have of it. Does it affect you? Well, you don't push away and ignore it. You say, no, I see that, gas prices are high or whatever, but everything's fine on my end. I'm doing great. That's literally what you do in life. And if you want to change the world, be what you want to see. Some people call that selfishness, but that's guilting you. Guilt is also a fear. Guilting you. And I know for a fact how that works. No one is ever going to guilt me anymore. I'm not going to be guilted by anyone in my life or anyone on the internet or out here in society. I will not be guilted by anyone. I will not be guilted by my own self. I don't hold any of my past mistakes in the past against me. I'm not that man anymore. I don't do any of that. For me, I'm living my life, the life of my dreams, following my desires. That's how I serve the God I was trying to serve. You actually are God, and you're serving yourself by following your desires in your higher mind. And how do those desires manifest? As impossible as some of them may seem, is simply by you saying, it's done. The feeling of acceptance, the relief, and go about it. And I'm telling you, in ways you don't even know, things will just happen and flow out for you. All right, I've made this video long enough. If you got something out of this video, thumb it up. Share it with others. Hey, and if you're living a life and you're seeing what I'm talking about, it's happening for you, make your own videos or at least talk to people and share it with people, because there's a pleasure in that. You don't have to, but there's a pleasure in that because people have put it out there. People wrote books and had audio recordings, and they're now since dead, like Neville Goddard or Florence Shen. And there are people alive today that are making videos and writing things, and they're sharing, and we can all share this and help one another to live the lives of our dreams, and the universe can expand with enjoyment and excitement. And we'll see in the outer world the kind of world that we want, because we choose what we want for ourselves, and we choose better for everyone else. Can you manifest for other people? No. You can choose how you experience them. I experience my relative not struggling financially, but doing well. That's how I experience them. And you'll get, quote, that version of that person. No, my relative is not sick in the hospital. They're well and doing great. That's how I experience them. I choose that. And you choose that. In the meantime, while things haven't, man, you still got the shitty job you're going to, but you imagine you got a better job. You're still driving a shitty vehicle, but you imagine that you got a better vehicle, for example. You still got the, the shitty health thing going on with your body right now. But you are feeling acceptance that this is what's meant by Noah when he talked about imagination. It's not being delusional. It's just simply saying, I'm going to see the world from that point of view. Yes, I know I still got to go to this junky job right now. Yes, I know right now I got to drive this junky car. Yes, I know right now my body's kind of feeling bad. But in imagination, I don't angst anymore. It's that feeling of acceptance, of relief. And that's how you prove to yourself that you're God and that this world is not objective. It is subjective to the only true objective truth, that all is mind. And you may have to become a hanged man and crucify yourself and give everything up and sell all you had to buy that pearl of great price. And you will see that you are nothing but consciousness having a human experience.